everything that you already heard earlier today, but we can just open it up for questions. Obviously, I've got the standing here with the Lieutenant Governor and our Budget Director, Jen Flood, and our Deputy Budget Director, Kyle Garant. So happy to open it up for some questions. Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Rick. Yeah.
My question, when it comes to the pre-K, did I understand, pardon me, if I didn't understand, I apologize. That's gonna be paid for by money saved because of the pay down of the retirement plan, and how much money is that?
So we will have paid down about the pay down will have freed up about $670 million. The universal pre-K is part of those dollars, and that's how we will be utilizing those to ensure that every 4-year-old has the opportunity to start school earlier and have those supports and help families. But that's not the whole $670 million. We'll be using some of those resources for other things along the education continuum, such as the free breakfasts and lunches, such as leveling that financial barrier to continuing school beyond 12th grade. Anything else that I want to include?
Yeah, just some of the additional wraparounds that we've been able to invest in K-12 over the past few years. So making sure we now have ongoing funding for before and after school programming, for tutoring, for literacy supports. We're able to capture that savings and really inject it throughout the system from K-12 to post-secondary.
And that savings is ongoing, right?
Yes.
Governor, your budget would leave less than $20 million left on the balance sheet. So what's your plan B in the event that there's a court ruling that the income tax cut is permanent?
So as you know, the budget is the start of the conversation about negotiations. We've got a court ruling, and we are confident in the accuracy of that. And so we built a budget around what our expectations are. I would also recognize that this budget actually is smaller than last year's budget, about $500 million less in general fund. We also have amassed record resources in our rainy day fund, as well as an education fund, and paid down billions in debt. So we're in a strong fiscal position. We built this budget utilizing resources based on what we believe are sustainable. And I think that that's really why we've gotten in such a strong position, able to make these long overdue investments.
When it comes to the floor,
Okay. Go ahead. I didn't hear you, and then you'll be next. Well, as we think about, ensuring that our people have lifelong health and lifelong wealth, we know that the smartest investments we can make are in the education of our people. And that starts with our youngest people. And that's why bumping up the goal of having universal pre-K by 2 years and making it available in this next budget is something that is really important. Ensuring that we level that barrier so that every high school graduate could do 2 years of community college tuition free. That inures to their financial benefit immediately of about $23,000 a year just in salary alone based on that credential. And that's just a start. So we know that the trajectory is real, and that's why education of our people is so important. Also, as we pitch Michigan, as we grow our economy, as we look to investment to come to Michigan or stay within Michigan, the skills of our workforce is the very first question anyone asks. Much more important than anything else they raise, which they want to talk about utility costs, they want to talk about tax structure, et cetera. The first and most important question is skills attainment, and that's why the education part of this budget is something that we'll continue to expand on the work we've done the last 5 years, and I think this is a groundbreaking opportunity for us.
when it comes to the floor provision for state-required mid-cert payments, do you think that there will need to be a change in statute to lift that floor, or do you think it's automatically going to get lifted?
I'm going to defer to the budget office on that one.
Yes, the FY25 budget does include a request to have statutory change to the floor. We've met our obligation early, and we want to use those dollars to invest, as the governor said, and we presented this morning, to invest in our youngest resource, in our kids, and make sure that they have the skills and the resources and services to be successful from birth on. So, yes.
As you just mentioned, this is obviously the beginning of the discussion, but one of the members on appropriations, you just spoke is that there were a lot of good things they viewed in this plan, but also areas where they believe spending could be cut based on those numbers. What's the lowest in terms of the overall budget you'd be willing to go if the legislature decided they do want to make cuts?
Well, so every budget I've introduced, that's always one of the takeaways. When I was a legislator, that was always one of my takeaways when a governor presented the budget. So we're just starting the process. We've put a vision that really is about lowering people's costs, expanding and growing our economy, and ensuring greater outcomes for our kids and our skills attainment. That's what's centering this work. This, as everyone's going to dig into all the details here, and the work will get started on the legislative side, but we've been working on this for 5 months. We are confident in the choices that were made will help us achieve those goals, lowering people's costs, growing our economy, improving skills attainment and outcomes for our kids. So I will always negotiate with the legislature, regardless of whether it's Republican controlled or Democratic controlled. That's my job. I've started the process and we'll go from there. But I'm not going to say, here's this or that right now. They haven't even had an opportunity to read the whole budget yet. So there'll be plenty of time for those kind of conversations in the coming months.
Governor, you called this a return to normal, but funding in the budget at total 80.7 billion is still 55% more than the last budget pre-pandemic, and the general fund is about 40% more. Should we be coming down in spending if we're returning to normal, or is this about what we expect?
Well, I think that every household knows that inflation has meant, everything's more expensive, right? And that's what happens over time. We've been fortunate to be able to put Michigan's fiscal house in a much stronger position, paying down liabilities, debt, whatever you want to call it. Paying down $18 billion, that's a big deal. And getting this budget done, we could be in a position where we can say we've paid down $21 billion of debt. Our credit rating's been upgraded over the last few years. We are in a position where we've got historic highs in our state general fund rainy day fund, but also created a school rainy day fund and gave $1 billion of tax cuts to Michigan residents. And I proposed a Michigan caregiver tax credit. I mean, there's a lot of ways that this budget really is focused on making investments that lower people's costs. And so when we do that, and we do it right, every person in the state benefits from that.
Governor, one of the criticisms that was put forward was about the housing funding and that it wasn't really enough to address the actual shortfall in housing units. It was more of a showpiece as opposed to a practical fix. How do you respond to that?
Well, I think that anyone who's even casually been observing what's happened over the last 50 years knows that most of our housing stock is very old. We, like every other state in the country, need more affordable housing. There's just not enough housing, and it is important that we are building in earnest. That's why I've said, build, baby, build. That's going to be the focus. $1.4 billion is 10 times more than what we were putting into housing just 10 years ago. So this crisis didn't happen overnight, but we are, I think, the first administration that is really going to move the needle on this front. And it helps every community. When I am in Benton Harbor, touring a new facility that Whirlpool was a big part of making come to fruition. When I'm up north working with Habitat for Humanity in conjunction with the state of Michigan, this is how we have creative solutions that meet the needs, the unique needs in different communities across the state. There's a lot of work that needs to be done here, and any person that in the legislature who says, let's do more, I mean, come on, let's work together and make sure that we realize all the potential in front of us. Yeah.
So I do think the housing is an interesting example of the fact that we have a role to play in making sure we can deal with our challenge with affordable housing and accessible housing in Michigan. When we made previous investments in affordable housing to the tune of $100 million in previous budgets, we thought that would draw down $480 million roughly in private investment. And so we think that this foundation of $1.4 million also lays a foundation to leverage other private investment that we expect to see more of in the state of Michigan to build all kinds of housing, to rehabilitate all kinds of housing. So we are not the only ones who are going to solve this problem. We cannot solve this problem alone, but we can solve it together. And we think this is an invitation for more people to invest in housing solutions in Michigan that are going to work for Michigan families.
Governor, I think NDOT is pulling out the last trash of the rebuilding Michigan When that's out in 2026, they're facing a $2.4 billion revenue cliff. What's the plan for generating more money?
Well, I think that, let me recognize first that I think we've done an incredible amount of work, and Michiganders know this because they see the orange barrels all over the state. And certainly with the freeze and thaw, we're all cognizant of that there is more good work to do in this space. Bringing this $700 million into the fold right now helps us do the planning and get ready to continue this work. We've got a lot more good work to do in this space. I don't believe that, we're going to slow down for even a second. So getting these dollars in combination with the federal dollars, I think is going to put us in a stronger position, but that's an ongoing conversation.
Do you see another gas tax increase?
No,
No, that's out of the question.
I'm not proposing any gas tax. I can tell you that right now.
Governor, do you have a projection as to how many more workers you could get in the childcare workforce by subsidizing their own childcare costs?
My education expert here.
No, we're still efforting those numbers. In terms of the total number, we see a focus on the retaining current workers and seeing significant benefits there. But given the newness of this program, I think that time will tell how many more childcare workers will be attracted to this field because of this opportunity. But I think we'll see the biggest benefit early on with retaining workers that are already in the workforce.
Can you talk about your decision not to make transit a bigger priority in this budget, given the Growth Council's recommendation to invest more?
So the Growing Michigan Together Council put together a lot of different pieces that would be a part of a long-term blueprint to grow our population and our economy. We looked at a lot of the recommendations that they made, and they're reflected in a lot of the education work, for instance, that we've built into this budget. There is increased dollars that we would be putting into transit in terms of, additional things that maybe we should be looking to. Welcome the conversation with the legislature. Obviously, the Growing Michigan Together Council presented their work to them as well. And so I do think that there's going to be continued work. But we didn't get here overnight. And this plan is one that we wanted to get done so that my administration and the current legislature, as well as future administrations and legislatures, can continue to take pieces out of that as we want to make Michigan a place where talent stays or comes to and makes their lives here. And that's, I think, an important part of it. But we do have more resources for transit in this budget.
A big focus in this budget about bringing folks to Michigan, preparing our youth for the workforce. How does some of this funding translate into the creation of jobs to make room for the folks who are preparing and coming here to make their lives here?
Well, the great thing right now is that unemployment is at a low number. We are seeing take-home pay going up. We know that when we make investments in our skills, that we will have more people that can take on the good paying jobs that are currently available. As we aim to make sure that additional investment comes into Michigan, good paying jobs, not jobs you scrape by, you work full time and just scrape by, but good paying jobs you can raise a family on. All of these are important pieces, making sure that people have housing, ensuring that their kids have good school opportunities, daycare, leveling barriers to community college beyond high school. All of these, I think, are critical ingredients to our overall success in this space. But I think that what we are seeing and what we're capable of right now gives me great confidence and optimism as we look to an evolving economy and the high quality of life we offer and the low cost of living. These are tremendous strengths for the state of Michigan, and getting these fundamental rights are crucial to our success.
Your budget proposal sees a more than 70% drop in funding for the Michigan Department of Education. Obviously, you have MyLeap now. What is the point of the Michigan Department of Education now in this MyLeap era?
Well, we know that the economy has evolved. We know that we've got to be citizens who are lifelong learners. We know that It starts with our youngest Michiganders. It starts prenatal, actually, and goes throughout the course of a lifetime. The way that state government was organized, you had pieces of the continuum in different departments and agencies, and it was cumbersome and not particularly efficient. The State Department of Education still has an important role, but ensuring that we are really coordinated in an effort to upskill our population over the course of their lives and level barriers to those skills really, I think, necessitated a new kind of structure in state government. I appreciate the work that the State Department of Education does. They continue to be an important part of our success in this realm, but this was really motivated by recognizing that an antiquated, disparate structure doesn't serve any of our goals, and that's true for the department as well.
Governor, visit Detroit has called for increased funding to attract major events such as the Super Bowl for the state. Is that something we've had conversations with them about? Is that something we see a path forward for?
I think as we get into the budget and start negotiating with the legislature, that a lot of different unique geographic priorities will always be a part of the conversation. Detroit's success is absolutely linked with Michigan's success. Get the NFL draft, for instance, is something that's going to be great for the whole state of Michigan. So I'm certainly open to having those conversations as the budget progresses.
What do you think Michiganders should take away from this budget today?
Michigan's fiscal house is strong, and we're making investments in the dinner table issues to make people's lives more manageable and ensure every person has a path to prosperity in the state of Michigan. And I think this budget is a great way to make sure that that's a reality for all Michiganders. All right, thanks.